Welcome back to For the Love of Men podcast. My name is Courtney Shand, and I'm hosting with my dear friend Brianna Mosier.
Hi.
The intention of this show is to bring together men and women to create healthy, polarized relationship dynamics by learning how to honor each other's natural masculine and feminine energetic core. I want to introduce you to myself and my friend Bree, and then we are going to dive into some more things that women wish men knew.
Part
infinity. We've got some good ones today, specifically bids for connection. This is one that we had requested. We want to go a little deeper into it because it's just such an important part of relating. So we will get to that. I want to introduce you to Bree and what she does and myself, and then we'll get there.
Yeah. My work in the world is helping very successful, high-achieving women embody and embrace their feminine energy and learn how to heal deep-seated wounds that maybe keep them in unhealthy attraction patterns so they can start shifting those and attract healthier, more empowered masculine partners, as well as part of my background is in sex, love, and intimacy. So I do a lot of somatic-based healing in all of my work, but especially with exploring and expanding pleasure and really coming home to your body again as well. That's my work in the world. Courtney, your work in the world?
Yes. Similar but different.
Similar but different.
We're
very original.
I work more specifically with men these days to embody that masculine energy, the empowered masculine energy, kind of rebranding your identity from the nice guy habits into this empowered, integrated masculine man. Once we clear out some of those beliefs and understandings of how things work, we can reframe those really easily and let go of some of the pain that caused so that you can move through the world with more confidence and really peace of mind as you're dating. You show up more securely to the dating space and get totally different results.
So good.
I love it. And part of that is understanding bids for connection. One of the biggest things that I talk to men about is understanding what is unique to the feminine. I can't tell you how many of my masculine clients have been like, I thought I understood women because I've been studying this stuff for a long time now. And they're mostly emotionally intelligent. These nice guys tend to have a lot of emotional capacity. They're interested in growth. They want to get stronger in lots of areas of their life. And yet when you don't understand what's unique to the feminine and what's unique to the masculine, you interpret their behavior through the lens of how you would interpret it if it was you. And I would say that's true across the board. But most of the work that we do is kind of cleaning up what it means to the other person, your behavior, what it means to the other person.
Well said. I think this concept of bids originates from the Gottman Institute, no? And isn't it one of the number one predictors of relationship success? So if you haven't heard this concept before, it is you can't unknow it. Once you know it, then you start to see it everywhere, and it does change how you relate. For me, it changed how I related with everyone.
Yeah. To just see it as like they want connection instead of they're nagging, they are irritating me. I'm trying to think of some of the things that I've been guilty of thinking before I understood all of this work. Like they're needy, they want some attention. Like, what do you need? It is this like bid, this ask from a vulnerable space. Like, hey, will you connect with me?
Okay, so let me give an example of this.
Yeah.
What a bid would be to make it easy. There was a clip on social media of someone going to the grocery store, the man going to the grocery store, and the woman had said, I forget what it was, kiwis are on sale. Yeah. And he gave some lackluster response or lack of response, like didn't really catch it. And she felt dropped by that. He didn't come back with kiwis. He was like, what do you mean? You didn't ask me directly. But her just saying, hey, kiwis are on sale was her bid for connection of him to be like, oh, how many should I get? But he didn't pick it up. And so she felt dropped, and it spiraled into this like online debate. I thought people were going back and forth of should he have, shouldn't he? And what Court and I talk about, it really boils down to is a bid for connection. If we're standing in the grocery store and I say, this kiwi looks like my first dog, I don't know, I'm making it up, and I go to like show Courtney that and she ignores me, that's just a bid for connection. Is it important? No. Does it matter deeply to me? No. But what does matter is the felt experience of I'm telling somebody, my friend or a partner, something, I want to connect. I want to share this. I want to feel your attention. You feel my attention. We're having intimacy over this, right? So for her not to say anything would feel like, ouch, that feeling of, do I matter? Do they care? Am I being ignored? Do I feel dismissed? And people in relationship will miss each other's bids for connection so often and both end up feeling rejected and dismissed by the bids that we're not seeing. We're just missing each other. When you start to notice it, then you can build this positive momentum of knowing my partner's attuned to me. They see me. They care about what I have to say. I matter to them. Mm-hmm. That Kiwi looks like your dog. What kind of dog did you have?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You know, it's such a dumb example, but I wanted to do something silly because it really doesn't have to be important things. That's not the point. The point is the reach for connection. Mm-hmm. So if you're having a partner, a woman who's like nagging, you don't pay attention to me, is it that she's telling you things that are seemingly meaningless, like the look of the Kiwi, but it matters so much to her to feel you leaning back in, you also participating in the connection?
I want to distinguish this too, because I think it's a cumulative thing.
Yeah.
It's not that one bid being dropped is going to like devastate her. It's a cumulative predictor of that relationship's success. And I think it was like 90% accuracy that they can predict based on observing a couple for like, I don't know, 10 minutes, how many bids were made and how many were received. That ratio is what can determine the longevity and health of that relationship dynamic with like 90% accuracy. Don't fact check me on that, but it is in that range.
Really
it was
astonishing.
Very, very clear predictor. This is a skill you have to have if you want for your relationship to make it. And I think it is so important to note that, like we always talk about, in the empowered space, she's going to be able to handle if I'm doing something else and I'm like, oh, that's nice, you know, and aren't like completely focused on this story that you're telling me about.
What a bizarre example. I'm so sorry. I didn't plan it. It came stream of consciousness.
This feels like an improv class of like the yes and, which is maybe the skill that we need to be practicing. I've been actually enjoying that as I've been dancing. I'm like trying to practice like this yes and energy of like, ooh, okay, I'll play. Mm-hmm. Because that's what she's asking. It's kind of like, hey, do you want to play? If you think about this feeling, we talk about like our inner children parts, these parts of us that are still like young and immature and a little emotionally fragile. It's like that feeling of like, hey, do you want to play? And your friend being like, no.
Yeah.
I'm busy. Yeah. Or like, ew, not with you. Or like, I'm playing with so-and-so.
Yeah.
It's that feeling of like over time, it's not going to be healthy for your relationship because you're going to now be bringing that energy of like, they probably don't want to play with me. I shouldn't even ask. And this is what I do talk to men about a lot too, is like, if she stops bidding, that's trouble. You need to be paying attention. If she used to be like bringing random things up to you and she no longer is, that to me is like, this is serious. You have got to be paying attention if you want to keep this person in your life. Because there will come a point, we've talked about this in other episodes, where she's like, I'm just going to go over here.
Her heart closes.
Because there's no point in me continuing to bid if it's not going to be received.
You know, it also reminds me of, I hear this from clients a lot, when they'll send like their partner a song via text or a picture of something they saw that day via text, or they'll text something like Kiwis are on sale, whatever it might be. And if there's a pattern of you of a man continually not acknowledging those texts, or like they just never listen to the song that you sent them and they come in with like the, hey, I'm on the way home from dinner or on the way home from work, and they skip over it, that's a missed bid. So what Courtney's saying is, yeah, of course, the more empowered she is, she can stabilize herself and not make it mean everything that you dropped her once. That's fine. But if it's happening often, like multiple times a week, she's sending you a romantic poem that matters to her, or a study that she saw that relates to something she knows you're trying to work on and thinks will benefit you. This is like, oh, I'm thinking of you. I want to connect with you. I want to be your partner. Do you see me? Right? I care about you. And if you're not seeing those, even from a good place, because you're linearly focused and you're at work or you're with friends, but it still adds up for the experience of her is dropped or ouch, you didn't receive it. You know, the pain of how you might feel as a man when you want to give and it's not being received. It feels kind like similar to that. But I want to connect, you know?
Yeah.
So I like what you said about it's cumulative, because I think that's the biggest drive home, is it's not one, it's when it becomes a pattern. And when she starts finding herself going, oh, I'm not going to send it to him because I don't want to bug him. That's when you're getting into this like yellowy.
I would say orange. we're in code orange at that point. Because,
code orange.
Yeah. It needs some real attention. And I think if men understood just how simple it could be to resolve that, to unwind that, it's not like it's permanent either. Like you can create a new pattern just by acknowledging it. And that could be just saying like, oh, thanks. I don't have time right now. I'm going to look at this later. Like just knowing that the effort was not completely wasted. It would feel the same, I think. For men will understand what it feels like to have your effort not acknowledged in any level. It feels like a waste of your energy. Like, I'll just spend that energy somewhere else. It's the same with her emotional energy. She's giving you emotional energy. And you do this too. Men do this too. This isn't like a gender or energy thing. It is the part of us, each person that wants to connect. And I think men do it maybe in different ways than women. Women, I find, and this, I wasn't planning on going here, but I think there's a lot more of like expression-based bids for connection. I think men, this will make sense to them, that theirs is more like physical-based bids for connection. You like touch her back, you know, rub her arm, give her a spank, like whatever, as you're walking by, like
spicy,
you know, whatever. And if she like completely ignores it over and over again, it's going to have a cumulative effect where you're like, ouch. It doesn't feel like
does connection. She like this? Does she want me?
Yeah.
Does she want me to do this?
Yeah.
I love that you brought up physical bits, because I was going to say the same thing about women. I think we make a lot of small physical bids. This is obviously a broad stroke generalization, right? But it's kind of a joke, but it's not really a joke. Like we joke. Okay, I'm going to tell you something we joke about as women. I'm going to tell you, I'm trusting you with this.
Yeah.
I'm trusting you with this. We will often joke about the fact that when a woman is interested in physical intimacy, her bid for that might be like touching your leg and being like, I really missed you today. And in her mind, she's like, I'm green lighting him for sex.
Yeah.
This is the green light.
Very clear. How could he miss this one?
How could he miss this? I'm staring into his eyes. I'm giving him this sexual energy from my body. I touched his leg. And
on the side,
you just honest, beautiful men will be like, I really missed you too. Go about doing what you were doing. And she says, oh, the horror. He ignored me. He rejected me. He doesn't want me. It's actually a concept originally from Allison, one of our mentors, who talks about how subtle women's bids for sexual intimacy can be. And when we first learned this in our studies and schooling, we howled together laughing at all the instances where we both were like, I tried this and it didn't work. I tried this and it didn't work. And we're like, you know what? I could see why that didn't work, because it's like giving someone a wink and expecting them to know you're consenting, you know, like it's not obvious. So I think women will make these physical bids that can feel a little stretchier, especially if we're talking about sexual intimacy, because I think generally speaking, most women are used to the man making the first move, whether it be how I'm not saying it's right, it's just how they're conditioned societally, or if she's more in her feminine, she'll probably expect you to come forward a little bit more with the first move. So if she is willing to take the risk to initiate, it is probably a skill she hasn't practiced much, or maybe is developing confidence in, and that's why it comes out a little more subtle. Again, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just telling you kind of factory setting for women. Yeah. It takes a lot of gumption to touch the leg with the intention. Makes me laugh because I've just done it and made the mistake so many times of feeling rejected when it just wasn't obvious enough. You know? I know you know.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because he picked up the bid for emotional connection. There's the nuance there of maybe receiving and discerning. And this is something I think we'll have to do a whole episode around, of like discerning the difference between an emotional bid and like a physical sexual flavored bid for connection. I think there's a little like miss that keeps happening. I'm hearing it from clients and I'm like, you know what, that's fair. Knowing what I know now and how women communicate that they would be open to that versus how men do, I could see how it would be like ships passing. But hilarious.
So many differences.
I cracked up when I heard that. And she says, even publicly, so this isn't like her private information that we're sharing, but she says this publicly of like, you just need to ask what your partner's sign is.
Mm.
You know, like if you know that me tapping the side of your leg and saying
very quickly and gently and pulling away immediately
and saying, how was your day? If that is my bid for connection in that way, then it would help if you knew that.
Yeah.
Again, I laugh because that can be so misinterpreted as just like a friendly, like, how's your day?
We really don't do men a service by that. And I just think it's because it's an underdeveloped skill.
I love that you said that. Yeah.
You know, we're just not that confident initiating. But I will die on the hill that men and women both equally crave sex and pleasure. Like women love sex just as much as men do. You know, we're just not as practiced as that initiating, if you will. So at least that's been true in my practice with my clients and in my experience.
I'm so glad that you went there for sure. Yeah.
So bids, the take home message is when she's telling you all kinds of random shit and you're like, why is, and this isn't important. And is this, why does this matter? Like, get to the point. No, she's telling you because she trusts you, like we've told you about with the Meadow Report, right? Mm-hmm. She trusts you and she's making a bid for connection. So when she says, this Kiwi looks like my first dog, you're going to go, ding, ding, tell me about your first dog.
Give a fuck right in that moment.
Yeah,
a follow-up question.
Yes. Give a follow-up question. Or just let it, oh, wow, interesting, weird. Let me see a picture of your dog.
Yeah, what kind of dog was it?
Yeah.
Good follow-up question for that moment.
Such a weird example, but if you can notice the bids, we didn't get a lot of mail today. Oh, okay, interesting. Thanks for getting the mail. If there's any way you can just acknowledge what she's saying, hey, do you want to watch a movie tonight? Yeah, sure, whatever, is very different than like, yeah, I'd love to watch a movie tonight. Mm-hmm. What are you thinking?
Turn towards her. That I think was in the Gottman's research was how many times the partner turned towards their partner, physically or energetically. To be like on your phone, you're in this lane and she can be talking to me, but it's essentially just going through me because I am focused over here. Mm-hmm. If I wanted to catch her bid and not drop her, it's kind of like lobbing the softball. You know, I don't want to drop it. Would be to be like, oh, what did you mean by that? Tell me more. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to watch a movie. Mm-hmm. Just looking her in the eyes can be enough. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's just, hey, I just need you to see me. Like, notice that I'm here.
Or touch, even. If you're doing something, you could just be like, I hear you.
Yeah.
Very simple. Just pick it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We had, I think the specific comment that was left on this video asking for bid, like what's the difference? And it came from a really good place. So that's why we decided to do a whole video, because he was like, I don't understand how that was a bid for connection, talking about the Kiwis. Yeah. And the thing that I responded to that person was, if what she's saying feels or seems rather out of context to the rest of the situation, let it be known she's not communicating information to you. She is bidding for connection. I would say that is probably like a good rule to play with to get you started in this, because I can share information. Sometimes I just need to share information, logistics, what I need from the store. Sometimes it is just information. If it feels like out of context and you're like, Kiwis are on sale, okay. That's when you need to cue in that this is not just information that I'm sharing. I am actually wanting you to pick this up and do something with me with it.
Play with me.
Yes. And I don't think that it would be unsafe in any capacity for you to just assume it's a bid for connection. You're going to be better off to assume it's a bid for connection than to just leave it as a random piece of information that you don't know what to do with. So pick it up, respond to it as if it was her wanting to play.
Well said.
And see what happens.
Let's do the next one. Unless you feel like there's more to say about bids.
No, I think that was it.
Yeah, I felt like your basket was empty. No?
Take the mic.
No. Keep talking, but I was like, I think she's done. I feel like if I know my friend,
I am done.
Your basket's empty about that.
I'm done.
You don't have to be.
I'm done.
Okay.
I'm done. I just wanted to make sure that we responded to that particular comment because I do like when you guys comment and ask legitimate questions. We want to clarify however we can.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now I feel like you should decide when we do the next one. Because I hijacked you. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. What's the next one? Whenever you're ready.
I think we were also going to include what paying for dates does to the feminine. We had more to say on this.
So we have a whole episode on this.
Mm-hmm.
The one prior to this episode,
I think so,
will be the full, in-depth, nuanced description of this whole who pays for what and the effect on each other and the pitfalls that we have when this happens. But we want to give you just one little cherry-picked piece that you can take and run with. You know, I work with very high-achieving, successful women, usually high earners, who can pay for whatever they're wanting in their life. But when we talk about dates, almost universally, they will say something like, you know, I'm willing to do 50-50 down the line, but it just feels so good in the beginning to have a man pay for the date. And I feel guilty about that. Like, I don't know, I could pay for it, but I really want him to. And what I often tell them about, and we'll tell you about today, is that it's the energetic felt experience she's looking for, not necessarily the monetary investment. Because it's not that she can't pay for it. And it's not that you guys couldn't go 50-50 and still have a beautiful relationship. But what it creates for the feminine is the feeling of being taken care of. And especially for driven women, but I would argue all women who like to be in their feminine energy, it is really nice to let go of the reins and trust your masculine partner to like pick the place, set up the plan, you know, open the door for you. And when he pays for the date, it feels like an exhale. It's like you're being taken out, being taken care of, being pursued. You feel like you matter to them. You feel like you see me as something worth investing in. So it's less about even the number of if it's a $15 coffee or a $100, $200 dinner date. It's the gesture of I've got you. I'm going to have your back. I'm going to take care of you. I'm willing to do this. This can be our dynamic, which is going to put her more in a feminine space. I know Courtney has a lot to say about this. I can't wait to hear her ads. But the one bonus tip I would give you is, I think if you were dating a woman and you knew you were going to pay for the date, tell her up front. Tell her, like, I would really love to pay for this date if you'll allow me. I'd love to take you out. Telling her in the beginning takes all this pressure, especially for how so many women, rightfully so, feminism has really changed the dating landscape. And so she's already thinking about, I promise you, she's thinking about who's going to pay for the date.
Yeah.
It has crossed her mind.
Yeah.
God forbid you asked her, where do you want to go? Because now she has to pick the price range and she's like, you know, feels responsible. You should ask her where. You can ask her those things. Don't like hyperfixate on that one point. But if you told her that you wanted to take her out and pay for it, it takes all the tension out of the date. It's already taken care of and she can lean back and relax, versus the whole time having this, like, maybe even little low level anxiety of, should I offer?
Yeah.
And if I don't offer, is he going to think I'm mooching off him, or that I expect this all the time? Because that's not who I am. But it would be really nice if he paid for it. I do like the idea of him pursuing in his masculine. These are the inner thoughts happening for her. So if you just say, I'd love to take you out and I'd love to pay for dinner if that's okay with you. Relief. So it's the energetic experience that you're creating by paying. It's not necessarily the amount of money.
Yeah.
Go off,
I
Courtney.
think that is so, I think it's important to know, and I don't have any statistics on this. I'm just using the sample size of my clientele, borrowing from your clientele based on what you've shared.
Yeah.
And our girlfriends, I realize that there are men who have experiences where they have been the foodie call. They've been like used for dinner. And we talked about this in that whole episode of like, we don't understand how to deal with the emotions that go along with putting ourselves in a dating scenario that feels vulnerable for both sides. And if it doesn't work out, then, you know, we write it off as kind of like the same way sarcasm sort of like covers us a little bit. We don't have to be exposed in that moment. We're like, at least I got a free meal out of it. At least dinner was good. At least you know, at least I got laid, whatever the thing is that we use as kind of the like consolation prize to the connection that we were actually, I think, hoping for. If we're going on dates, all that to say, I think people are genuinely wanting to have more integrity in their dating experience, at least the women that I'm speaking with. And I just don't get the sense that they are, if they are coming from a mature space, that they're looking at it as like this meal ticket concept. And I only share that because I want to challenge the idea that, not that the experience hasn't happened, because I'm sure that it has, but to open you to the idea that not every woman is after that. The experience that she's after and probably doesn't have the language for, which is what we're talking about it on here for, is the experience being created for her of being taken care of being invited out, of the kind of exciting, almost, I don't want to say like celebration, but it is kind of like a big deal to go on dates in a more traditional sense. Like, you get dressed up, they get dressed up, or, you know, whatever it looks like. You're being intentional with your time. That's all I'm going to say as a date. You're being intentional about your time, getting to know someone else. And especially if you are going to be paying for the date, letting her know in advance isn't going to have her be like, ooh, what else can I get? That's like never been a thought of mine or any of my friends. And so I want to offer this perspective to, I think the men that are listening would benefit from hearing women talk about this honestly, because it makes sense. I wouldn't want for the opposite, for men to be like, what else could I get from a woman? It is a relief of like, oh, I don't have to have this low level anxiety. I can just relax and receive. That is the expectation, is that I can just relax and receive and trust that he is providing. It cleans up so much of the dynamic when we aren't running this low level anxiety in our nervous system as the feminine.
Well said.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's what the effect of, like, if you say early on, I would love to pay for dinner, if that's okay with you, Courtney's saying that would alleviate that low level anxiety.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe we're just highly conscientious, but I'm always aware when I'm like on a date, I'm not going to be like, I'll take the Wagyu filet. Unless he's like, get the Wagyu filet, which that's
Order
happened before too. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, amazing. I am going to be aware of being respectful of whatever the like, I don't know. I think there's more healthy, conscientious women out there than maybe gets talked about in this particular concept of paying for dates. So I just want to maybe open that door back up.
You know, I agree with you. I think most women are aware, and especially women who've done their work. I wonder if we're generalizing because our circle is healthy, empowered women.
Right. That's why I caveat with this. but they're there. I do think that's important to know too. There are women out there, and I think calling it what it is, aim for those women.
Truly. Yeah. And I think there are lots of women that may use dating in the other aspect too, right? They exist. It's just like I would tell any of my clients who are women, wounded masculine exists, toxic masculinity exists, you know. No one is saying that's not true, but I would be teaching my clients how to shift their picker away from those people and more toward healthy. And so while we could spend the episode talking about how women who are in their wounded feminine are going to go on dates seeking to get as much as they can out of it, and that I would see that as wrong. I don't think it's fair at all to use somebody for a date like that you have no intention of getting to know. It makes me sad that happens, to be honest. It's not within my heart, it's not within your heart or anyone, you know, we're close with, but it does exist. However, hyper focusing on that is adding the energy to it and continuing to put you in a paradigm where you're going to keep attracting women who take. And the more that you brace for they're taking, and I'm protecting myself, and I'm holding back my resources, the more energetically you start getting into a place of expecting that and almost calling it in because it's all you can see. You're not even open to the possibility that there are women who want the energetic experience of being taken care of, but it's good and it's in integrity. It's not pulling. It's like they are going to celebrate and receive your generosity and not pull on you and be taking advantage of you, you know? Yeah. Got to be careful what you're giving a lot of energy and focus to when you're dating.
Something that I tell my clients too is the more you're hedging like that, the more likely the counterpart is to take. If you are like holding back, all that can happen is to be taken from, because there has to be an exchange. You might as well choose what you like to give and give it freely and generously, so that it's not feeling like it's being taken from you. You are giving, you're putting yourself in the driver's seat in that moment. Not that someone will take something from you, but if you're going on a date, you are expecting there to be a give and a take and an exchange of energy here. So you can choose up front what you're wanting to give and what feels like you would like to provide. The one who's in charge of providing is the one who feels empowered. And that is the empowered paradigm to play in when you're dating, is I would like to give financial resources, time, attention, emotional energy, whatever it is for you. Pick your ace card and give it freely, because it will be a renewable resource when you're playing in the empowered paradigm. Because the person who's across from you, you're looking for someone who can receive what you like giving. And in return, her receiving of it is going to supercharge your experience of it. It's going to create this nourishing loop for you, which is where the fun happens in dating.
I think a really great move for men could be also, when you're planning the date, give her options of places you've already decided you're happy to take her. I once had someone send me over 3 different options. One was like casual, and one was a little nicer, and one was really fancy. And it alleviated the pressure for me, because I felt like you are already saying any of these places are okay with me. He had already said, like, I want to take you out, and here are some places I'm thinking could be really fun for us. I found that very grounding and took the pressure off. As a woman, when you ask her, where do you want to go? There's a sense of like, what price range? You know what I mean? You're taking me out. I don't want to choose something that's like very expensive and you'll think I'm taking advantage, or cheaper, and you know what I mean? So you giving the options also gives you that agency to decide what you're willing to provide. If you don't want to take her to a fancy steak dinner on date number 1, that is okay.
Yeah.
Maybe the place you suggest is in a lower price range. Or we had said in this episode where we deep dive paying for dates, the one before this, remember, it's the energetic quality. So even if you're in a lower budget, that's fine. You can create that energetic experience of her feeling taken care of on a $15 budget. The example we gave in the show was, if you ask her what her favorite coffee is and you've picked it up and you've picked out exactly what walk you want to take her on because she loves the ocean and you know that. So you're going to, I found this walk for us to go on that I think is going to have views that you love. And I already got your coffee and I'm bringing an extra jacket and a blanket so we can sit and talk while we're out there. That's a really cute, fun date.
I love that. Yeah.
And you're providing it, and you get some power over this by what you're offering. Yeah. So if you feel like, I don't want her to pull on me, okay, well, come forward with the option.
Yeah. I can't say it enough. She's pulling. If it feels like they're pulling, it's often because you're leaning back as the masculine energy. If you're upright as the masculine energy, her pulling will be a very clear red flag, and you'll get the ick. You'll be like, no. But usually when you're feeling pulled on, there's an invitation for the masculine to stand a little bit straighter, to lean forward a little bit, and then see how she responds. If she's still like really pulling, that would be a good indicator that she's probably not standing on her own 2 feet yet. But if she can like just lean back a little and be receptive, that's probably a good indicator that she just needed a little more of your energy coming forward to feel you. And that's, I think, where a lot of men need a little bit of support, is that calibration of like how far forward is actually far enough. You may be way back here and wondering why she is like not interested. It's because she can't actually feel you until you're engaged, kind of like horizontal or leaning forward a little bit towards her. That's going to keep her in her feminine energy.
We should do a whole episode on zooming into that concept.
I know.
Because I think men and women alike would really benefit from, you can't see if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, but we're like holding our hands parallel and sometimes your hand leans forward or backward. And it's this energetic dance. When I work with clients who are wounded feminine, like kind of anxious leaning, I explain to them that when you're leaning forward, he's leaning away because of the energetic pull. The more that you stabilize yourself, the more room you give him to come forward. And so I love that you're giving the opposite to men. Like if she's pulling on you, we need you to come forward and stabilize more, and then she will stabilize. You both can shift the dynamic. We should do a whole episode on that.
Yeah. This is what I love teaching about dynamics, because there's so much power that you have to actually see clearly if it's a dynamic issue or if it's a you issue or a them issue. That's a question that always comes up, and that's work for private work. But it's like, if it's a me or a them issue, or is it the dynamic that's creating the worst part of me coming out and the worst part of you coming out? Because that is often, in my experience, where the breakdown's happening. And that is so fixable. Very simple shifts.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's it. We have a whole episode on paying for dates. Go back and listen to that one. And then the bids for connection. I would love to hear if this is new information for you and or what you want to do with it. Keep us posted. If you start listening for bids in a different way, how does it play out for you?
Love this. If you want more from Courtney, it's at Courtney_Shand. If you want more from me, it's at Building Bree or Building Bree Coaching. If you're a man listening and you want to work with her, go on her website, CourtneyShand.com. You know mine is buildingbree.com, but I imagine we have mostly male listeners on this episode, so probably nothing on there for you. I usually work with women. If you love the show, please share it with someone you think would benefit. If it goes on your socials, thank you so much. That's the greatest, to share it with so many people. But even if you think your dad or your cousin or somebody you knew from high school would benefit, like, as much as you can share the show, we are just so grateful. We want to get this healthy information in the hands of people who are going to utilize it to have more sturdy, secure, nourishing, progressive relationships and connection. Yeah, deeper intimacy. And Lord knows we need it right now. So share away, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye.